What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Terp Talk. I am your host, Sarah Tokes. Today we have Dear Cannabis, a new compassion company. We have Mel and Vinodh. Awesome. Do you want to say hi?
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello.
Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're listening to this.
And good night.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for coming through. Dear Cannabis is a new compassion company based out of Sacramento. So, of course, thank you guys for the drive down. So, Melissa, let's start off with you, kind of your backstory and how you got into cannabis.
Absolutely. So, going all the way from the beginning, my mom got sick when I was 3. She got breast cancer. Cannabis was always around, helping with her nausea through chemo, and she passed when I was 6. I got older, was on, I'm good? All right. I was put on Ritalin and Zoloft by the time I was 8 years old. Became a little bit of a zombie and antisocial, and got into high school and tried cannabis. And I was like, wow, I can smoke weed and I don't need to take medication.
Yeah.
And it's giving me the same benefits as the pharmaceuticals did. So I became a habitual smoker. I got into hospitality. I bartended in San Francisco for about 8 years, moved out to New York and ran bars in Manhattan, and literally quit overnight and moved back out to California to jump into cannabis with a girlfriend of mine. And that is how I got here.
Oh, that's awesome. We just got some cartridges if you guys want to smoke on some Mix Masters.
There you go.
Wow.
As we go in.
My language.
Right?
Jackie Tan.
How about you, Vin? How did you get into the industry and kind of to where you're at right now?
Yeah. My story kind of goes back almost 10 years. How I got to cannabis. So when I was a student in college, I made some friends, and those friends happened to be veterans. I think at the time I was 20 years old. And so for me, it was the first time I ever experienced, being able to have discussions with the men and women that fought, overseas, and to really see some of the, effects of war. And, to then put on top of that, being a student in college, it was an amazing opportunity I had at a young age to participate and help grow a club in college that I went to for vets. And after that, I went off and I was in corporate America. I was actually a district manager in the grocery industry. So I guess I went from selling greens to selling greens. So really, maybe not much has changed. And that experience, let me just, get on the right level. There we go. So that experience was amazing. Just the amount of opportunities and responsibilities I had for most of my 20s, traveling around, opening up stores, managing. But what came with that was about 80-hour work weeks.
Yeah, of course.
Stress, depression, anxiety, a lot of the things that, affect our community and the world. So, I then was able to move back to California in 2015, I believe, and thought things would get better. When we come to California, everything's better in California sometimes, like the weather.
So they say.
So they say. But it was just as bad. The amount of work hours that I was doing was probably double in certain days, and I wasn't as close to family or friends as I thought I was going to be when I moved back home. And then in 2017 is really when things changed for me. One of the friends, my best friend, who I helped start the club with for veterans, he ended up passing away. And for me, that was the one thing that really put in perspective what was important for me. And so I quit my job overnight to my parents, their own, thoughts on that. But they were like, cannabis, you are entering it for the right reasons. You want to explore medical cannabis. Yeah. If you do that, we support you.
You're not coming in to be a Chad.
Right. No. My name is Vinodh. My name is Vinodh, not Chad.
Vinodh, Chad's in the room.
So that's how I first, got involved in the cannabis industry in the 215 days. And yeah.
That's awesome. So what made you guys kind of want to start your compassion program after being in the compliant industry and just working for brands?
Well, so we both were kind of working alongside each other in different companies, and we were friends, and we had kind of a group of cannabis co-workers and mentors that we were all hanging out and kind of getting to know each other and supporting each other in the industry. But he tried to poach me. I tried to poach him. He tried to poach me again.
It happened.
And COVID hit, and we really had kind of a sacred pause to be able to connect and focus on the pain points we were seeing in the industry, the bad business, the fact that it was all about money, and that patients had kind of taken a back seat to everything else in the industry. And of course, you know, I called Vinodh, and I'm just like, well, how are you handling COVID? And what do you think about this change in how we're going to do business dealing with COVID? And he kind of gave me the war speech of my life and was like, you know, like,
Braveheart.
Yeah, like what we're going to do now is going to determine who we are for the rest of our lives. And it just kind of sparked this, okay, well, let's talk about it. And how do we fix it? And how do we do business the right way? So we decided to start at the basics of why we both got into cannabis and what was important. My mom, his friend Larry, and we decided that, you know, nobody's kind of fighting for the patients. So we wanted to give them a voice, and we wanted to bring it back to that and kind of hold the industry a little accountable to remember where it all started. So we made a phone call to a friend of mine, and he donated 20 pounds of trim. I'm going to hit this real quick.
Do you, boo?
This
Do
is
you?
a huge blunt, by the way.
It's the 8-gram blend by Cali Green Gold infused. Shout out to David.
Awesome. So we work with a company out of Nevada City called Emerald Bay Extracts. Casey and Thomas. Casey's an ex-oncology nurse who quit the medical field to come into extraction with cannabis and make RSO. So
What is RSO for people listening that don't know what's up?
yeah, so Rick Simpson oil is actually created by Rick Simpson. He had skin cancer, so he created this concentrated crude oil and rubbed it on his skin cancer, and supposedly that is what healed his cancer. So then it became a product for chronic pain, seizures, not being able to sleep, just kind of one of the most medical-based products. Very big during the 215 days. A lot of collectives gave it away.
Yeah.
Correct.
But Prop 64 hit, and taxes and regulations. And I mean, there's buyers that I talk to still to this day that have no idea what RSO is.
You don't really see it on the market that much. I've only
Right.
seen, I think, Cream of the Crop has an RSO. That's probably the only one I've really seen in the market. But for people that really need it and they don't really know, you know, it kind of puts them in a weird position.
Right. And, you know, Emerald Bay, they take it a step further, and they have strain-specific RSO. So, you know, obviously cannabis hits everyone differently.
Yeah.
So do the strains, so do the terpene profiles, and everything that goes and makes the plant so beautiful as it is. And that's what RSO is the entire full spectrum of the plant. So to have that combination of specific strains and seeing how that affects, you know, different ailments, it is really one of the most potent products you can get in the market.
Absolutely. So we talked to them about their capacity as far as donations and what they were doing to give back. And, you know, they were making products here and there, being a part of events, but there wasn't really like a program. So they can blast up to 250 pounds of biomaterial a day. They do their RSO cold ethanol extraction. So we got the 20 pounds. They went and picked it up. They blasted it. They got about 1,100 grams of Purple Punch strain-specific RSO. Casey spoke to a testing lab, California AG Labs, and they're out in Marysville. Shout out. And they donated one test a month. So then,
That's awesome.
right? So Vinodh reached out to a friend of his from Stuffed and Stacked, who does all the packaging for Alien Labs and Connected. And they were kind enough to donate a month towards the program. So we took all of the logos of everybody involved, and Casey created a label where we all co-branded, made it very clear it was a compassion SKU and a collaborative effort. And the bags are being stickered, hopefully right now as we speak. The RSO is in syringes waiting to be bagged. As soon as we get into final packaging, we're going to throw it in testing. And then we are working with a couple of retailers and distributors across Northern California that have already agreed to intake it through Metric, which is way easier than anybody thinks. So we are going to connect with, groups like Sweet Leaf Collective in the Bay Area, Operation EVAC, Padre Moo in Oakland, and we are going to make sure that their patients have access to this medicine. So I'm going to let Vinodh tell you about some of the exciting conversations we've been having up north in Humboldt and Shasta.
Yeah, let me just pass the blunt over. When you bring up the term compassion, or actually I could back it up, when you have conversations with some of the retail partners, that you've been working with for so many years, sometimes the conversation is about just one particular thing, whether it's a product or something else. It's, for me, my experience was always like one avenue that I was speaking to my retail friends and partners about. But as soon as we talked about compassion and like kind of what was in the 215 days, a lot of the retail partners and owners of these dispensaries who know exactly what 215 and the compassion and RSO is, they've really opened up and been wanting to help. So some of the conversations now are their retail partners that are starting to get more vertically integrated. They have access to farms. The farmers want to help. They want to donate. They just want to make their strains like into medicine. Some of them just want to give, they want to make sure we don't run out. Because once you start a compassion, we want to make sure that we don't run out. So those are, what Mel was saying is the conversations we're having now with some of our partners is how do we continue to keep this going so it never stops again?
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, just imagine having an endless amount of weed.
Right.
But just for like the right reasons. That's great. So when it comes to whole like compassion SKUs, are you able to have those at recreational shops, or is it mainly like med rec? How does that work?
Absolutely. So here's the thing, right, is as Vinodh mentioned earlier, like with taxes and regulations, I think clubs have just been trying to survive. And it's very overwhelming and changing every day, and then bring in Metric. And so in March, they actually passed SB 34, which brought compassion back onto the table. So as long as it starts in Metric from the cultivator or manufacturer as a compassion donation in Metric, which is a cute little present next to the word. It's like super easy.
That's funny.
And you sign a certificate saying that you will not resell it. Then it goes through the whole supply chain completely free, tax-free, like all the way to the retailer, completely free, all the way to the patient, recreational or medical. So we are working on trying to kind of coordinate the groups that are already focusing on mental health, PTSD, veterans, chronic pain, cancer, and kind of connect them with the retailers who have agreed to help us. And so, we're taking it a step further, and we're creating a one sheet of all the information, the BCC regulations, the actual Metric instructions on how to put it through as a compassion product, the certificate, and going into the retailers and distributors and showing them like, hey, it is this easy to just intake it through your system. And most of them are completely unaware that we can do this now. So it's really exciting to have these conversations, because a lot of these collectives back in the day that Vinodh was mentioning, they had huge programs and had patients coming in, giving away thousands of dollars of, compassion medicine, and to Prop 64 hit, and
Destroyed the industry.
Oh.
Completely destroyed the industry. That was like the atom bomb. We did not need to happen to cannabis. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Then COVID, right in
Oh
the middle
my God.
of all of that.
COVID in the middle of like exactly when the Compassion Care Act comes back, and then boom, COVID hits, and then they hire all new staff at dispensaries, and no one knows how to use Metric.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Metric is just by far the most confusing thing, but it finally taught Americans and cannabis users the Metric system. So
Absolutely. And I think also too, what we noticed going back to the fact that everybody has a lot going on, everybody has to, juggle a lot of jobs in this industry, taking it and making it a team effort across the industry, it takes a lot of that weight off of everyone having to be, responsible for all parts of it. So when we spread it out, it's a lot easier to carry when we work as a team, and we reach more patients, which is the whole point. So we're really excited to see how it grows. We have a cultivator that we're picking up 6 pounds of a high CBD full flower that we're going to make in our next batch. And then we have another cultivator who said he has 50 pounds for us every 2 months of trim. So we are now reaching out to other labs, trying to find more testing, packaging companies to find more packaging. We're pretty good on the extraction and the cultivators for the biomaterial. The retailers are ready, excited. The distributors are down to help. And, we can get it to the point where when we get it to the distributor, every normal order that goes out to a retail account will just have a second metric transfer of Compassion. So then we're already delivering, so it's not taking money out of the distributor's pocket to have to send a truck to bring this medicine. You just do it as a normal daily practice as you do business. And so I think we're looking to also help these clubs and distributors develop those programs and understand how to scale it and not get overwhelmed. And like he said, the more we've been talking to people and the people who want to get involved and who want to help, we really see this as something that can grow quite quickly and really bring it back to the patients. We want that to be the focus of the industry.
yeah, I mean, that's what cannabis is all about. It's all about compassion. That's what the Compassion Act, Prop 215 and 96 got passed for,
Correct.
So seeing the compassion literally just get stripped away year by year when Prop 64 goes by.
Right.
Right.
It's sad.
And then the other part of it too, with remediation, you're paying to destroy a product that's perfectly good. So our next project that we're looking into, because we're still learning, we're growing, we're trying to figure out if there's an expired COA, but it hasn't been packaged. How do we remediate it into Compassion to be able to use it to donate or to extract? We're also trying to figure out a system so when clubs or distributors have products that are expiring, that we can put that through the same kind of program, and just kind of eliminate the waste and, literally just paying to destroy medicine. It's pretty ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, and especially with the 1 year expiration, realistically, how accurate is that?
I've smoked stuff way past a year.
That's what I'm saying.
Works. It works.
It doesn't always taste great, but it
Yeah,
works.
it's not my first choice, but you
Yeah,
gotta do what you gotta do.
I've smoked on some year-old wax or something, and I was like, wait, this was shattered so sugary right now. How did this happen? And it was
Right.
just the terps were gone. It was not a vibe, but
Right.
I wouldn't say it was expired, but that's
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So, this is, something that we're looking to collaborate. We're looking to co-brand. We're looking to build together. It's not something that either of us can handle on our own. We came together to support each other as a business, but now we're just looking to expand that network and kind of have an open source compassion network of people who want to do the right thing that can all collaborate and make it super possible with minimum stress.
yeah. So how would retailers, distributors, whatever, cannabis companies, how would they get involved?
So, the best way is we have an email address set up where companies and organizations interested in getting in touch and just getting more information or receiving from us the actual open source compassion network. It's like a document that Melissa created to just kind of take notes from what people are willing to volunteer, like either their time or resources. So that email is letters at mydearcannabis.com. Part of the mission as well is to really record the compassion and how it grows and scales in the next 5, 10, 15, 100 years. We want to make sure that the stories are not lost, and we want to know what companies are willing to do to keep that story going about compassion, to keep that momentum going for the patients. So send in letters at mydearcannabis.com, to get more information.
Yeah, and I think the other cool part about this too, not just collecting the stories, but the analytics, right?
Yeah.
Some people are numbers people. I get it. I'm in sales. I come from bartending, which is, I'm
All
measuring
numbers.
cocktails, numbers, right? So we're hoping to be able to collect data that then we can work with, lobbyists and people who are trying to, change the way the government, regulates marijuana. We'll be able to give them hard data. Look, this is how easy it was to help this many people. And then comparing that with, other analytics from the city, the suicide rate or crime rate or, cancer rate, whatever, we can kind of compare and collaborate that data and then come with a more concrete suggestion of how we were able to help and what is possible, and do things like getting it covered by health insurance. I mean, my sister can go pay $20 at Walgreens to buy Adderall, which is legal drugs, cocaine, whatever, meth, salt, and,
Whatever they want to call it.
But then when I go to the dispensary to buy my dad RSO, it's $50 out the door, and he's going through a gram in a couple days. So it's just kind of, it's not even. So we're trying to bring all the analytics and data to the people making the changes and just kind of support it. And this is what's actually happening and going on.
And trying to just break the stigma of cannabis is a medicine instead of just a drug. So
Correct.
let's bring those prices down, guys. Please.
Together.
Together we can do it.
And there's room for everything, right? Don't get me wrong. I love to roll a swisher and kick it on my couch and, turn on the music. But I also use it daily to manage my anxiety, my ADHD, and my depression. So I think there's a side to, there's appropriate time for both, but the education's missing beside with the medical side of things. So if we make it a more normal conversation and we get more people involved and compassion doesn't become something confusing and, ancient, and it's a very real tangent thing, that's where we're heading with what we want to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. You just need to stay on top of it, continue to educate patients, consumers, buyers, whatever, on what's going on. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. I love hearing that. Are you able to talk about any of the brands that you've partnered with, or just kind of go in on them? Or
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
So the first brand where, we got the trim from is Correct Cannabis. Brennan, Cameron, you're amazing. Appreciate you. They are based out of Oakland, and it was kind of just a thoughtless thing. He's just yeah, come pick it up. I'm in. So he kind of kickstarted it, and then we'll jump to Emerald Bay Extracts, Thomas and Casey. Amazing people. They're up in Nevada City. Casey was an ex-oncology nurse, worked in the ICU, really saw a lot of pharmaceutical reactions to things instead of, going a more natural route. So she left the industry, started extracting and making RSO. They are involved in all sorts of compassion programs kind of here and there. And so when we approach them for this, they're just, all hands on deck. Let's go. So they've been amazing. They're also a distribution themselves. So they're going to be able to push this medicine through their own distribution into our retailers that carry their other SKUs of RSO. And then Casey from Emerald Bay, California AG Labs in Marysville, they stepped in, donated one test a month.
And then I've known some of my friends back since I almost started in this industry. They now work with a group called Stuffed and Stacked. So they do a lot of packaging for some big brands. And after discussing the project we were working on, they were more than happy to help us get our first labeled, like professionally done labeled compassion donation, where it's not just something thrown in a bag or a Ziploc bag.
I was going to say, are you going to do Mylar? Are you going to do it in a nice box? What are your...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so
we're just
I know
about so
the
excited.
excitement. It's all good.
So our first batch is going to be in a Mylar bag. Because it's compassion, we're not skimping on the biomaterial, but the packaging is not the main concern.
It's not the name thing.
Right.
Yeah, so we have it in a Mylar bag with a sticker. It's in a plastic syringe, full gram. And, moving forward, depending on how we scale this and who gets involved, the other cool part that we can do with Emerald Bay is we can make tinctures. So it doesn't have to just be a RSO. We can also dilute it and make more of it and make it a tincture. So I think as we see who wants to get involved with the packaging and, the different options we have that makes sense, then, we can grow our SKUs kind of as it moves and whatever makes sense, Yeah,
and who knows what's going to be on the forefront of medical research coming here soon as, things start to become opening up more states, more countries, international. Who knows where we could go with this, medically speaking, which is what gets me excited.
Hey.
I want to go travel. I want to see what medicine is being made all around the world.
Yeah. That's awesome. Do you guys want to say anything before we sign off? We're getting ready to wrap up this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to shout you out. I super appreciate you reaching out, and I'm so glad we connected and having us on the show and giving us a platform to talk about this program and, the other help you've been putting in. Like, I'm so excited to just watch this grow and bring more people in and build, and just, you're a badass, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, that was amazing, Melissa. I just want to say thank you. It just means so much to have met Melissa and then through her meet you and everyone here. It just gets me excited about what the future has for us.
I know, of course. And I want to thank you both for coming through and honestly starting this compassion program, because it's time to bring this back into the industry. And I want to thank everybody that's listening for tuning into this week's episode of Terp Talk. Make sure to follow us on IG at Terp Talk CA. And this episode was sponsored by Persepolis Brands and the Compassion Co. I'll see you soon.
We in the